Good morning and welcome to Movement and Meditation. This is a virtual series of workshops and classes that I began to offer several months ago as we entered into this period of quarantine, of social distancing, and when it became impossible for us to be out in the public realm doing our usual everyday activities. And I started this project just out of a personal need to want to somehow help others to manage what they may be feeling, what they may be sensing on a physical and emotional level. My name is Patton White, and I'm the Artistic and Administrative Director of Beacon Dance, and I'm now in my 31st year of that role. And for about the past 25 years, maybe even a little bit longer than that, probably closer to about 27 or 28 years, I have worked extensively with aging populations and populations of folks with varying degrees of ability and just different abilities. And so in this workshop, in this series of experiences, they are intended to be available to anybody regardless of your movement background or experience or ability. And what the main focus of this whole project or program is going to be is an area we call in the dance and movement realm, we call somatic practices. And there's a variety of these somatic-based practices, but essentially what they all have in common is this desire to really focus on an internal way, or in an internal way, and to discover and to experience the body from the inside out, as opposed to what our Western culture has kind of brought to us, which is this sense of experiencing our bodies from other people looking at us, or from us even, in a sense, looking at ourselves from outside of our bodies. And so with all of these, with the various exercises, with the movements, et cetera, that I will be sharing, we will be digging into various different somatic practices, and throughout the next 4 months I'll be sharing with folks who these people were who developed these practices, a little bit about the history of how they came about, sharing and researching the areas that they have done, and some of the stuff that they've discovered. So this week, today and Friday, in our movement sessions, we are going to be focusing on just very, very subtle somatic investigations. And we're starting off slowly, intentionally, because that's actually just one of the ways that we begin to shift ourselves out of what may have felt like real time, if you will. And this is a virtual series of workshops and classes that I began to offer several months ago as we entered into this period of quarantine, of social distancing, and when it became impossible for us to be out in the public realm doing our usual everyday activities. And I started this project just out of a personal need to want to somehow help others to manage what they may be feeling, what they may be sensing on a physical and emotional level. My name is Patton White, and I'm the Artistic and Administrative Director of Beacon Dance, and I'm now in my 31st year of that role. And for about the past 25 years, maybe even a little bit longer than that, probably closer to about 27 or 28 years, I have worked extensively with aging populations and populations of folks with varying degrees of ability and just different abilities. And so in this workshop, in this series of experiences, they are intended to be available to anybody regardless of your movement background or experience or ability. And what the main focus of this whole project or program is going to be is an area we call in the dance movement realm, we call somatic practices. And there's a variety of these somatic based practices, but essentially what they all have in common is this this desire to really focus on an internal way, or in an internal way, and to discover and to experience the body from the inside out, as opposed to what our Western culture has kind of brought to us, which is this sense of experiencing our bodies from other people looking at us, or from us even, in a sense, looking at ourselves from outside of our bodies. And so with all of these, with the various exercises, with the movements, et cetera, that I will be sharing, we will be digging into various different somatic practices, and throughout the next 4 months I'll be sharing with folks who these people were who developed these practices, a little bit about the history of how they came about, sharing and researching the areas that they have done, and some of the stuff that they've discovered. So this week, today and Friday, in our movement sessions, we are going to be focusing on just very, very subtle somatic investigations. And we're starting off slowly, intentionally, because that's actually just one of the ways that we begin to shift ourselves out of what may have felt like real time, if you will, and just kind of stepping out of that real time place and into a place where we can just slow down and really focus both internally and emotionally on what we're experiencing physically. And we're going to start off seated today. We'll be doing all of our work seated today, but we're going to do a couple of different explorations with some music in the background. So if you don't already have something to sit on, go ahead and grab yourself a stool or a chair, and I will. All right, we will begin by, as I said, sitting on a stool or a chair. And we are going to really start by just grounding our pelvis into the chair, the seat, and feeling the support of this bowl of the pelvis and how it is the base of the spine, and it's also a container for many of our internal organs, much of our the sort of tail end, if you will, of our digestive tract, that sort of thing. And yes, and a very complex set of muscles and tendons that also help us with our locomotion with our legs. So reaching, or releasing, I should say, down into your stool or chair, and then with the opposite end of the spine, we're going to be reaching up, away, and we're going to be utilizing a technique that one of our somatic practice or somatic practitioners, Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen, refers to as navel radiation. And so if you want to go ahead and place your hands right over your navel or your belly button and feeling the sense of lifting up along the front surface of the spine, all the way up through the chest, through the sternum, and all the way up through the top of the head. And now let's go ahead and just very gently tap the top of your head, right in the center, with both hands, using the fingers on both hands. Just feeling that center point in the middle of the head, bringing in awareness to it, and the connection between that point and the navel or the belly button. So go ahead and place one hand on the belly button, one hand on the, and then leave the other one at the top of the head, tapping that point. And we're also going to now bring our awareness not only to these 2 points in our body, but also to the lungs and the breath. So go ahead and inhale. And as we inhale, we're going to expand the lower part of the abdomen forward into that hand. And then as we exhale, we're going to press that point, the navel, back towards the spine. And again, inhale. And exhale. And we can go ahead and let this hand release back down. You can go ahead and put it over the belly button again. But just remembering that sensation of the top of the head and the tapping up there, reaching the top of the spine up towards that point in space, and exhaling. And one more inhale. Expanding the lower abdomen and exhaling. And now we're going to release the arms down by our sides with the inside surface and the palms facing slightly away from the body. And with that same sense of lengthening in that center part of the spine, we're going to allow the arms to rise up, inhaling, and then turning over as we dive down into, almost like we're putting our hands into a pocket of the big overcoat that we have on. So we have scooping up, inhaling, and exhaling as we place the hands back down into the pockets of that overcoat. Again, inhaling and exhaling. One more time, inhaling and exhaling. As we do this, we're going to feel how all of the complexity of the shoulders, the rib cage, where the arms are entering into the shoulders, all of that, we are wanting to have this sense of it just being floating. All of this is just floating in water. As we inhale and exhale. Let's do one more of these. And exhale. And now we're going to just spiral in the arms. First one direction, inwards, and then outwards. And as we spiral, we're going to find how the fingertips initiate. So I'm just going to demonstrate with this one arm. So fingertips initiate that inward spiral of the hand, which then travels all the way up through the elbow into the shoulder itself. So we're feeling subtle stretching of this area of the shoulder, and then I'm going to reverse that direction with rotating backwards, first in the shoulder, letting it radiate down the arm until it reaches all the way to the fingertips, and we're completely rotated outwards and feeling a different type of stretching on this front side of the arm. So again, let's do this one more time. Starting at the fingertips, rotating inwards, nice and slow. Inhaling as we do this. Slowly, incrementally, exhaling as we arrive. Trying to remain relaxed and released in the trapezius muscles here on top of the shoulder. And now rotating from the shoulder itself as we unspiral the entire arm and hand, and we're rotated back out. Let's try this now with the other side. So again, I'm going to start with the fingertips rotating inwards, slowly inhaling, letting that rotation sequence up the arm until we're all the way up here at the shoulder, and we're feeling the inwards rotation up here in the shoulder. We may even start to feel how the shoulder blade almost feels like it's going to start to come over the top of the shoulder and in towards the pectoral muscles here in the front of the chest. Now, reversing that, so starting up here at the top of the shoulder as we rotate out, sequencing down the hand or the arm and into the hand until we're completely rotated towards the back surface of the body. And let's do this one more time with the inhale, rotating slowly, sequentially, finding the sequence happening all the way up the entire arm until we get to the shoulder girdle, that socket in which the top of the bone here in the upper arm is rotating. Again, feeling that sense of the shoulder blade almost pouring itself over And we can also work with our water image. Let's start rotating back out, floating the shoulder, floating the arm, floating the action of rotating in and out. And let's take a moment to place our hands on the knees and just inhale and exhale. And notice for yourself what might feel a little bit differently now that we've had that experience of rotation in the shoulder sockets. One more inhale. And exhale. Now we're going to take the focus back to the spine itself, and we're circling in the top of the head. As we do this, we are going to work with another one of our fluid system images. And that is the synovial fluids that cushion each of the joints. In this case, let's reverse the direction now. Cushion each of those the joints themselves between the bones. So all of our vertebra have this cushion of water, the synovial fluids, helping to facilitate softness, facilitate floating, facilitate effortlessness. And let's come back to the center. And now we're going to start to explore this same sense of floating in the spine as we release the head forward along what we call our sagittal plane. And as we release the back surface of the spine, we want to lift as if we're draping ourselves over a large ball in front. So we're staying hollow here in this front space. And we bring the spine back up. And now we're going to feel the same sense of support in the back space as we lift the sternum and the chest and the chin up towards the sky. And again, returning from the base of the spine, incrementally, one vertebra at a time, we come back to the center point. And now let's go again from the top of the spine, releasing, but feeling that sense of this ball in front that we're draping ourselves over. And returning the spine back up. Lifting, it's almost like the ball is inflating to bring us back up, and now the ball is behind us, supporting as we reach and release up in the front surface of the spine. And coming back up to the center. And now the last spinal bit of work we're going to do, we can, if you wish, you can slightly widen your base with your feet slightly more out to the side. We're going to do the same sense of releasing in our coronal or our door plane in a side-to-side direction. So starting at the top of the head, we release over to the side, and we're feeling all of this side completely opening up. The pelvis, both sides of the pelvis still firmly grounded into our chair or stool. And then pressing the base of the spine down into the seat, we slowly return the spine back up to vertical. And now let's try this on the opposite side. So top of the head lifts up and releases over to the side. Feeling the ear coming into a closer relationship with the shoulder. Feeling this whole side completely releasing all the way up into the neck. Feeling this side now of the pelvis firmly grounded or anchored into the chair or stool, and now pressing that area down even more brings one vertebra at a time us back up to the vertical. Alright, that's all we're going to do focusing on the spine today. Let's take a moment to just close our eyes and notice again anything that may feel more open or you are more aware of. Alright, let's go ahead and shift our focus a little bit to the lower part of the body. I'm going to back up just a hair. So, let's begin again with this idea of lengthening up out of the pelvis with the upper body. And we're going to feel a sense of radiating again from this navel point. And we're going to feel that radiation happening, reaching out with first the toes and then the heel on one side, and then pulling that heel back in. And then same thing with the other side. So extending, feeling the radiation happening from here in the belly button, toes reach, and then the heel reaches, and then we pull back in. Let's repeat that first side. So reaching, radiating out from this part of the body here. If you want to let that foot come off of the floor, you can. Just let it float up in space. And then second side, again, feeling this action coming from the navel, from the belly button itself. And extend. Bring it back in. Let's do just a little bit of a circling action now with the foot. It's taking the top of the leg in sort of an out and in journey in that hip socket, and the foot is just flat on the floor, and we're making these little inward circles. And now let's shift to the opposite side. So again, reaching out and pulling the foot in. And the top of the leg is slowly moving out in the hip socket and back in. And we're engaging in both the adductors and adductors as we do this, and we're feeling that initiation coming again from right here in the navel region. And we're also breathing. You know me, always wanting us to connect our work with our breath. Now let's reverse that direction. So we have starting with the foot reaching out and in. pressing out, coming in. And as we do this, like I said, we're trying to incorporate the breath with this. And now let's stop and go to the opposite side. Brushing forward, out, in, forward, out, in. And in the hip socket, again, we're utilizing the synovial fluids, moving from those fluids as we just let that effortlessly float in the hip socket itself. Now we're going to do the challenging thing, which is to try to do both legs at the same time. So we have out and in, and out and in. We may be making super, super small circles for this to help facilitate it. But now we're going to reverse the direction for both legs, reaching out to the side, around to the front, and in. And a soft floating in the hip sockets. Breathing in and out with each of these circles. When I first encountered this type of activity, it was when I first started to train in ballet. And those are called, because all of ballet is French terminology, those are rond de jambe, which means rounding of the leg. Now we're going to do something a little bit more effortful, and we're going to take the knee and lift up. So as we do this, we're trying not to we're actually trying not to make it effortful. We're trying to make it effortless. And so we're going to work with this image, if you want, that you kind of have in your hand on this side of the body. So we're working cross-laterally with this. We have this, a hand on a rope, and the rope goes up and over a branch or a board up in front, and then lifts up the knee. So it's this opposition of lifting as we pull down. And we're finding that sense of the cross-lateral communication happening within the body. And we can do this super slowly. Breathing in and exhale as we release down. And we're trying to find how the underneath side of the leg is exerting as much part of the work on this as what we may be feeling in the top part of the leg. And let's let go of that side. Let's grab hold of our rope on this side and feel that same sense of lift and release. And lift slowly and release. Feeling the underneath side. Again, this is part of the navel radiation that's happening from the belly button. Energy is going out through the underneath side part of the knee. The knee lifts effortlessly up. And again, up. Breathing in. And exhale as we release and lower down. Inhale. And exhale. Let's do one more of these. And release. Now we're going to try to sequentially go cross-lateral with our action and our attention. So we have this, starting off with this hand, this knee, up, pull down, release, and then this side, and release, and sorry, I'm going to coordinate this. Ya, up, and grasp, and pull, release, and lower, and grasp, and pull, release, and lower. Let's try faster. It's going to be the last thing that we do today. So we have 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and again. Ya ba 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 bum ba ba. Ya ba bum 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 ba ba ba. 1 and 2 and 3 and last 1. And take a moment now just to notice in the crease there of where the top of the leg goes into the pelvis itself, those muscles and tendons that you're feeling, the top of the quadriceps and where they go into the pelvis, the outsides of the legs, just noticing for yourself if you are feeling any sense of noticing any difference whatsoever. All right, I'm going to move a little closer to finish this up for today. So on Wednesday, we will be meeting again at 11 a.m., and we're going to be meeting via Zoom for the first time to enter into a process called a story circle. And we're going to be sharing stories for all those who are attending. We will be sharing stories about resilience. So a time that you have experienced some sort of resilience or felt resilient or observed resilience. So start thinking about those stories, and they're brief, 2 or 3 minutes max, and we'll just get to start to know a little bit about each other, and then we'll also take some time to talk a little bit more about this idea of what somatic practices, what the intention is behind them, finding and noticing patterns that we have developed in life, and choosing ones or acknowledging the ones that serve us well, and questioning or researching those that may not be necessarily serving us as well and efficiently as they could. And then on Friday, we'll reconnect with some of this, staying at this very slow pace to kind of get into this headspace of moving from an internal landscape. And then next week, we're going to begin to sequentially go through several of the various body systems in the body-mind centering work of Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen. Thank you so much for being with me today on this Labor Day. I hope that you are able to take some time and to reflect on the meaning of this holiday. What is it intended to be for? To pay tribute to the labor that we engage in, that we provide in our world. So we will see you on Wednesday on Zoom, and I will be sharing the link information in the comment section of today's broadcast. So we will see you Wednesday, hopefully, and then on Friday. Bye-bye.